Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio. No Jim Coyle right now. He will be back with us during I guess it would have been the second hour of the show, but it's going to be more like during the third segment of the show. Instead, you get John, the producer, and our good friend Charlie Miller here to kick things off. Charlie, I've been told Jim is on a plane. He told me he's heading to parts unknown, and that's all that he's given me. So I really don't know where Jim's going right now.
Man, okay. Hey, we got to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. So I guess we'll hear from Jim later, maybe find out where he's at. Maybe he's got a surprise for us. Maybe he doesn't. I genuinely don't have a clue where he's at. I'm not trying to tease anything. I'm just speculating on what could be going on with our old buddy boy, Jim Coyle. But we're glad you all are here, Coyle's Crazies. Obviously, Charlie Miller with Attack Basketball Academy. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. We're also going to talk a little Indiana basketball. And then when Jim rejoins us, we're going to be joined by Chris Denari and Matt Taylor during the second part of the show as well. No Carlton Edinrib today. We'll catch up with him next week. But lots to get into. Obviously, yesterday, Indiana had their first COVID cancellation of the season for men's basketball. It wasn't because of anything that happened on the Indiana side of things. Rather, it was the UNC Asheville team having some COVID issues. But, I mean, you've seen it all over the Big Ten. You've had issues with Penn State. You've had issues with Ohio State. I mean, there's no telling when the Omicron variant or whatever variant is going to strike Indiana next and give them their own COVID issues. But we're heading right into Big Ten season, Charlie. So this is not the time for all this stuff to be happening.
Right, rightfully so. But I think this is where no different than injuries, and you can't really put that comparison there, but it's just preparation. And really, you got to look at this on the bright side as much as you can because you are in season. And the bright side for me is you have more opportunity to really prepare and get players healed up that may be hurt. You get a chance to really have the players understand Coach Woodson's playbook more. Look at film, again, rest and recovery. So, yes, there's no game that was not played. So possibly speaking, they probably could have scrimmaged against themselves, right? They probably had an opportunity because, I remember we would do things, not necessarily, because it was some type of pandemic, but we would do things to mimic real games and practices to prepare. So you may have and you get stoppage, right? That's cute. That's cute. You get stoppage, you get a lot of coaching, teaching, correctable opportunities. So it's not necessarily all bad in a sense. I just wish everybody stays healthy, no matter what, because you just don't know with this situation, is it more like a cold? Is it a flu? What is it? And I'm not, that's not my lane, but I just wish everyone stays healthy.
Do you think that, and I know you kind of touched on this a second ago, but do you think that it's better for them to have that time right now by themselves as they prepare for conference play? Or do you think it would have been more, obviously better off to pay against, even though it was somebody like UNC Asheville, it's not necessarily the top competition you're looking for right now. Right. Is it better to play somebody like that or scrimmage against yourself right before the competition begins?
It's always good to go against another team because they don't know, again, your playbook. You get a chance to do things, give different looks. Against a team like a UNC Asheville, no disrespect, but there is disrespect in what I'm saying, so it is what it is. You get a chance to mix up your rotations. You can explore. You have margin for error, right? Mm-hmm. To really see who you're going to start playing in your 8-9 man rotation. Okay. This is all my perspective. So now you don't play that game. You probably scrimmaged, right? There's no way you kind of took time off because if we were healthy, you did something that simulated some type of game, and you probably went hard. So you got players also minutes that typically don't get minutes because now you have to have two teams, right? And so you get a chance to see what players have learned over the course of, let's say, the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. So to me, I mean, again, unfortunately, there's a cancellation and you have to be now ready at any time for this. The fortunate side, they probably had another chance, again, to not only rest and recover, probably scrimmage, get more film study, get more players minutes that typically don't get minutes, right? To see where they're at, to see if they're going to be that 8th, 9th person that may get 5, 10 minutes here or there, spot minutes to really help out people. That's getting the majority of the minutes.
Switching gears for just a second, I saw a comment from our friend Ross Bonnell, a.k.a. RBO Sprint, says, anybody think Tom Crean will make it through the season embarrassed by Gardner Webb last night? I saw this before the show. I was looking through scores, and I definitely wanted to bring it up because it seems like I've been updating Jim whenever anytime Tom Crean's Georgia Bulldogs kind of lose to somebody they're not supposed to. They lost to East Tennessee State last week. They beat Memphis before that, of all things, but Memphis isn't necessarily having the best season right now. And then they lose to Gardner Webb, 6-7 Gardner Webb by 17 points at home last night, moving to 5-8. So I don't really know if Tom Crean's going to make it past the end of this season for Georgia. A lot of people think that he may be spending next season in the media and not necessarily in the coaching realm. I mean, he could obviously get a coaching job at a mid-major level school and work his way back up from there. But man, it's just, I cannot believe the fall that Coach Tom Crean has fallen since his heyday at Indiana. I'm not saying he was the most successful coach to Indiana, obviously, but Tom Crean was, I mean, he essentially took the program from the ground up at Indiana after what happened with Kelvin Sampson. They had that 6-win season to start off his tenure, and then he helped them to Big Ten championships. And now he's falling off the face of the earth at Georgia.
Players. I mean, and you also had almost a renaissance time because you have about 6 or 7 plus guys that play for him that's now playing in the NBA or still playing professional basketball, right? You happen to have a great run with great players that kind of were like non-traditional IU type players. I mean, because it was kind of like they were literally getting away from the Bob Knight tradition, right, of style of play. So for me, we also don't know if, they had players out there, marquee players that may score 15, 16 a night. Were they out? Was it pandemic related? Was it grades? Who knows? Right. One thing that we don't really put in consideration here, and I'm going to say we as a group, the psychological effect of players right now in the state of being is it's at an all-time frenzy. Because imagine being a player, you're getting tested, you're not getting tested, you show up, you go to a location, you can't play that game. Man, that's a big, okay, what's going on? So now, again, I don't follow Georgia. I understand what you're saying, but I'm curious to find out that their marquee players play, and this is where these mid majors come in, man, and come in healthy, and this is their time to shine, right? Yeah. This is like their NCAA tournament. They win one of these games, that's a recruiter too. They could talk about, hey, we beat, SEC teams, right? That's a recruitable thing you can use. So I just wonder about a couple of things there.
And speaking of recruiting, and this is the last segue I'll take, excuse me, before we get to our first break and we get into the attack basketball stuff. But Jim's talked about with a few people earlier this week, and this is on the football side of things, but 3 Indiana players over the past season have transferred to Purdue, gotten in the portal and gone to Purdue. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know. I mean, I know the rivalry in football probably isn't what it is in basketball, but it's still Indiana, Purdue. 2 of them are in-state guys, to my knowledge. They played high school in Indiana. Mm-hmm. So they obviously understand that the rivalry's there.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts on somebody being in one program for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden you've got all the playbook information, you're heading over to the in-state rival, and you have the ability to share that with the other coaching staff, essentially.
So it's funny you say that. There was a player in Dallas Cowboys who got waived, and he was like almost a marquee player a couple years ago. He was, and then all of a sudden the Giants pick him up right before the Cowboys play the Giants. That's a strategic move, right? What's the schemes? What schemes, offense, defense, what's the cadences, right? Now, with the transfer portal, that also could indicate, John, that Purdue coaches have been in communication with them for a while.
And these players, this kind of stuff was happening in season.
These players have been communicating with other players that have said, man, we're at Purdue, we're winning. Why are you there? What are y'all going through? That's not something that just happens. Like there's no like this stuff. Like man, buyers are liars, man. It is what it is, man. Like the communication's been going on probably since the downfall after the second or third game of the season. I almost guarantee it. I got to put almost like a passive aggressive thing because there's no way you just flip. You're just waiting for the right opportunity because you need reasons, and typically reasons are from results. We're not winning. I want to win, so I want to go to a winning team. Look at what they're doing. I should have gone there from the jump. I wanted to come here. So I'm not going to say they're fair weather, but that's pretty much what I see it as. And I saw that 3 players.
But here's the thing: the first one, Samson James, he did it before the season happened. His issue was more so. He knew he was going to be second fiddle to Stephen Carr in the running backs room. He didn't want to be that. He wanted to play more, obviously.
Right.
So he jumps in during the offseason.
Right.
So that doesn't necessarily influence the other guys. Then you have DeMarge Lewis, defensive lineman. Kevin Peoples was formerly the D-line coach at Indiana, now at Purdue. I think that had a lot to do with why he left. I don't necessarily remember what his timeline was, if there was some losses already piled up when he left or not. But then you have Reese Taylor, who had essentially been the right-hand man to Tywan Mullen, All-American cornerback, not this past season, but the season before. And all of a sudden, he's gone. Now, his seems more like he would have been in communication with one of the other 2 guys just because of the timing of it and the fact that you got beat by Purdue during this past season. So, I don't know. We may be looking into it too much, but who knows?
Yeah, still. Again, that's recruiting fodder, right? Hey, look, man, you come to a winning program. We're going to win games. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Indiana's in rebuilding years. Why rebuild when you can win? You can come in and be a vital piece of the puzzle, right? So interesting enough, but those. I
just realized I made a mistake. Kevin Peoples is the current D-line coach. The D-line coach that left was Mark something, I think. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But the former D-line coach is the reason DeMarge Lewis left. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I realized I made a mistake given what I said.
And I'm more than certain the former D-line coach is probably you normally go back to where you came from, pun intended. You reach back and you go. And hey man, we got players that I know they're not happy. I know they're not. So I may be able to influence a couple people. Yep. That's kind of how I see it.
That's right. We're going to go at Mark Hagan. Thank you, Forrest. He got the name for me right there. Mark Hagan. That was their former D-line coach. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. We'll be back. We're going to talk a little bit with Charlie about his Attack Basketball Academy. He's been revamping his program. He's built up his presence on YouTube. He's starting to essentially get going with all that he's had planned. We've talked about him before about what he's been planning on doing. Well, he's now putting all that in motion. We're going to talk to him about that after we come back. So we'll be right back listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. We're back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
All right. So Charlie, we'll spend the next 25 minutes until Jim gets here, and then we'll take a break. And if he wants to continue it, talking about that stuff with you, that's fine too, obviously.
Perfect. I'm good.
And honestly, he said his plane lands at 9:20, so I don't know. There's obviously with planes and flights, you never know if anything gets delayed or not. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved all of our, if you couldn't tell from the beginning, I moved Matt Taylor and them to the second half of the show for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to mess with that. Not that we couldn't. I could probably talk a little Colts with Matt Taylor just because I've noticed they've been making a surge recently and I've paid more attention, but I normally don't pay attention to pro football very much.
I don't pay attention to a lot. So that's something I'm gonna talk about too. Is like I don't give myself much time to watch games, and I rather allot that time at improvement. To be honest with you, man. I just
appreciate the compliment because sometimes this stuff gets thrown on us at the last second. I had to call Charlie last night when Jim told me what was happening this morning. I was like, well, we got to plan a couple segments.
And tell Tim, stop looking at my legs, man. Come on, Tim. It's not I know, it's like I'm like the broadcaster. Got the suit and tie on up top, got the boxes on underneath.
I feel like Bill Walton probably did some of that whenever for some reason people don't like Bill Walton. I think he's hilarious. I love it whenever Indiana plays in the Maui Invitational.
Yeah, he's just him, man. I mean, former hippie. He just talks, and that's why he's so good. I mean, he's a former player. He's a personality. I mean, it's like he's there for color commentation.
Exactly.
Right? Weighing, the things that we may miss, and then the inside stories. I mean, that's what he's there for. So be like me sometimes when I watch games, I turn the volume down. If I don't want to hear what people say, I just turn the volume down. I just want to see the action, right? Because if you listen to it, you're going to be like, man, shut up. All of a sudden, you forgot that, we went on a 10-0 run. You're so caught up into what the commentators are saying.
All right, here we go.
Or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. John, the producer here, taking over with Charlie Miller until Jim Coyle comes back with us. We're about to talk with Charlie about his Attack Basketball Academy. It seems like anytime I'm on here with Charlie, we've talked a little bit about what he's been working on with it, and it's finally starting to come to fruition, and Charlie's going to share some of that with us today. So, Charlie, go ahead and take it away. Start us off wherever you want to start us off, and we'll get going.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. John, man, this is year 11 for me. I mean, it feels like I just started. This is year 11, and I can honestly say it has taken 10 years to get to this place and space where I can finally say, in this realm of basketball development, the realm I chose. I chose this is more of a niche. This is not like, if you were to ask me, John, okay, Charlie, would you want to go coach X's and O's, or you want to go coach what we call Jim and Joe's players, right? Hands down, put a gun to my head, players all day. Because to me, that's what I felt I excelled at. I excelled at player development. I really loved the off season, loved the season too, but to get a chance to look at how I can get better. And what I was getting better at was not necessarily just physical. How can I get better spiritual? I can get better emotional. Like, I wasn't saying these things as a player 20-something years ago, but it was always around me. And just hearing people like yourself, other coaches, other mentors, or, man, hey, you'd be a great motivational speaker, or you'll be a great this, that. And I'm like, well, what is it tied to basketball? Why are people saying this? And it just finally like clicked. It finally clicked. And I think when I started joining the show, I was in the middle of really putting together my projects. My wife is my business partner. Again, we've been doing this since 2009. And needless to say, 10 plus years in, we now have it organized where we have a direction and we have a better understanding as to what we want to do with this. And for me, what I want to do with this is become a major world resource in basketball development. That's simply it. Take what I've learned from, the people like Coach Knight, the Coach Fellings, the Coach Dockages, the Mike Davises of the world, people that you may not know, coaches from overseas I've learned from, I played for, played against, just putting it all in my perspective on basketball development, right? And it was a struggle. It was a true struggle, people, because it's like my interpretation of what true development should be. And then two segments of it, individual skills, then what I would call universal team concepts. And having one of the best teachers, and I'm going to tell you just my truth. One of the best teachers ever in basketball, hands down, and we can say obviously, is Coach Bob Knight. Now, I'm going to argue with that. Not the best X and O's. He was the best teacher of basketball because Coach taught us how to play, not what to play. He taught you how to think on your own. He gave us autonomy. Not saying that's wrong on X's and O's because we didn't really play that way. It wasn't set plays, right? It was more sets and actions. He put you in position and you understood if-then rules in a sense, right? And for me, that comes down to now what I call a system, a method. And any system is always designed to create a predictable result. When we play games, that's how we practice. That's how we watch film. If they switch, we will slip at the level of the screen. That's a breakdown understanding. And I'm taking all of that stuff I've learned, but then I'm adding 3 more segments. The first segment I'm adding is the psychological piece, right? The mindset. We talk about mindset, confidence, but there's a certain way I look at that, right? There's a psychological aspect to this. Then there's a physical aspect to it as well, to the body, endurance, perseverance, right? Then what I really excelled at was what I call the mechanical side of this, which is technique, right? This is the individual skill. This is what we marvel at: who can shoot, who can finish, who can dunk, who can run, who can cut, right? And then the last piece of that is tactics, right? Now you got to put it all together in the universal team concepts. And I mentioned this before on the show. To me, there's 5 things all great offenses have in common. It's spacing, right? We talk about spacing with Indiana a lot. When the spacing is great, they play great. We talk about ball movement. They get ball reversals. We talk about Parker Stewart being a high catalyst. When we move the ball, he's in the game, he gets high percentage shots, right? Because there's long closeouts to him. They're getting ball reversals and defensive teams give up, right? Now you put him in position. We want to get him more looks. They get more ball reversals. He gets more looks when he plays. Player movement. I think we focus more on that as a whole. We talk about the individual player, but that's to me a small piece. Now I go off what Coach Ron Feldman would always tell me: be hard to guard. That's just my way of telling players you have to be hard to guard with player movement. Then you go into drive and kick, penetrate, pitch. We talk about Xavier Johnson sometimes over penetrating, now stuck, right? They're stuck. Then my last piece of that is now screening, which we see now in basketball. It's not necessarily more off-ball screens. It's a lot of on-ball screens and dribble handoffs. So you put all that together, that's what I've been focusing on, man, the last 10 plus years of my life. Really like a surgeon, expert, like just going into this, not spending a lot of time watching a lot of games, just really focusing on, man, how can I get this stuff out of my head on the paper? How can I really help the players that I'm training transfer this skill where they can keep it for life? And then I use my training tactics as a metaphor for life, because it is, right? And there's just something I simply say, this show, everything I do, it's a game of directions, man. It's a game of directions, right? We were throwing a curveball today. Jim is not here. We have to do what? Pick up the pieces. It's funny I wear this sweater because this sweater it's a Martin Lawrence. It's a Martin show saying, but we literally are doing that, right? And that's all I'm about, man. The number one constant thing in life is adaptability. And that's what I want players to experience. And also my second thing I want them to experience is margin for error. Overcoming, making mistakes, stand on the court. And those are the players that really become great, become elite, not because they can make a shot at a moment's notice. They have built in a margin for error. The coach allows them to play through that mistake. They overcome adversity. They use, we call eustress, the psychological positive side of distress, to really excel. And those are the things I'm teaching. And people, it's taken some years to really get out and to make happen from concept to creation.
Well, yeah, it's awesome. And so one thing I noticed we talked about last night, your YouTube presence. You started to, and I know you were kind of getting into that a little bit with your videos and stuff like that, but you were going to show us one of those and explain kind of what you're doing with your new program and how you want to reach out to those people.
Yeah. So one of the YouTubes, let me set this up. I'm going to show everyone. And so you understand what I'm doing. Now, please follow me on YouTube at Attack B-Ball, and I'll show you coming up. Is every single day, Monday through Friday, I have a video that's being released, and I'm teaching. It's whatever that topic might be. In particular, the one we're going to look at right now is how to fix your basketball shooting. And, something that, for me, why I was recruited to Indiana and something I was really good at when I was younger. I couldn't articulate it when I was younger. Even since you asked me, hey, why do you shoot? How can you shoot like that? Now I can shoot right-handed, left-handed, and kind of go both ways. It was just something I did. Now understanding the language behind it, I'm very, very big on content, what I say, how I say it, keeping it simple. If it's a third grader to a 7-year-old, second grader, all the way up to a pro, I like to say the same things. And one of the videos you're going to watch right now is me talking about how to fix your shot in basketball, because a program I created, I'm going to show you also coming up, is an 8-week shot fix course I created on my courses page as a resource. Okay, so let's kind of go to it right now. You see this right here?
All right. Let's pull it up. Here we go.
You see it? Right. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, so watch we'll watch about 2.5 minutes of it, just me talking about shooting.
Hey, what's going on? It's Coach Charlie with Attack Basketball Academy. Shooting is my specialty. See, my freshman year in high school, throughout my junior year in high school, I averaged well over 25 points per game. My senior year, I averaged 32 points per game because shooting was my thing. See, even in college, I was known as a shooting threat. See, because I'm so passionate about shooting, today I'm going to show you exactly how to fix your basketball shooting form. Let's jump right into it. In this video, I'm going to share with you the number one tweak you can make to your basketball shooting form to become an elite shooter. Then, I'm going to show you the tried and true way to create your own elite level shooting form on every shot. I teach this to every player I train individually, and it is amazing how quickly their shot form improves after I show them. Last, I'm going to show you the number one skill you must have down cold to ensure that your shot form results in buckets. So what is the number one tweak you can make to your basketball shooting form to become an elite shooter? Your mentality. What do you have on your mind? See, let me give it to you. See, in order to be considered an elite shooter, you must learn to shoot a quick and accurate shot. Now, what do I mean by quick and accurate shot? See, you need to have a quick and accurate shot, meaning this. You need to learn how to become what we call a straight line shooter. That is the key. It first starts with your mentality, then it comes down to your mechanics. How quickly can you get into position and shoot the basketball? And I have to pause here because I want to say the right word. And I want you to keep this video, editor. I love to keep authentic videos because if I miss a shot, it's real. It's a part of the process, right? because it's all about your mechanics. It's all about your mentality and mechanics. And I hope I miss a shot. I really do. Right? I'm not lying. I'm not joking. Right? I hope I do, because I want to show you that's what it's about. I told you shooting is my specialty, and you see why. Right? I'm gonna keep shooting till I swish. I think I just switched that one. Right? Okay. I think the point's made. See, when you have the mentality, you want to now foster your mechanics. You want to bring it along with you. And when you put all those together, you become a straight line shooter. That's how you become an elite shooter. Before I show you the tried and true way
John,
to create your own elite level shooting,
you get the gist of it right there, right?
Yeah, and I love how let me remove this real quick.
Yes, sir.
I love how you say you want to miss a shot, and yet you're not missing a shot.
And I know I'm not going to miss
all that.
And I say that in confidence, not in arrogance, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm an active coach. I'm not just somebody who talks X and O's or just talks about individual, all these things, and I'm just on the sideline. And that's not wrong. The people I've learned from, the people I've mimicked, they're active. I'm on the court because it's one thing to talk about basketball as a former player, as a current coach. It's another thing to still have that perspective as being on the court. Man, it's tough, John. It's not easy to go out there and play in front of 18,000 people. You're not prepared for that every night. I don't care how tough you are. You're just not. You're not made for that, dude. That's not normal. Then you have millions of people talking about you, that breaking down your game, and then you lie. I don't watch that stuff. You do watch that stuff because you care. You're human. So it's like, again, for me to have that ability 25, 30 plus years in to go out there and do that left-handed, right-handed, because I have to teach it now, right? I have to teach it. And when you teach, you learn twice, because now you find small attention to detail that, man, I teach through reflection. I teach more through failures than successes, right? So I say this in love. I'm not going to miss a shot. I know I'm not. I'm not going to miss.
Even the lost art of the elbow jumper. That's what you were taking the whole time, where there was elbow jumpers.
Yeah, well, and that's just more so I don't get outside the camera too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's first of all, production is just me, right? Until we can continue to develop this stuff, right? So I got a static camera that can't move with me, so I don't want to get outside the window. It can't pan, right? So, but that mid-range shot, my mentality has always been that's a layup. That's ever for me. I mean, literally like 15, 18 footer shot. That's a floater runner layup finish. And it's like, you shouldn't even think twice about that, especially as a high level college player, professional player. That's a make. Like I'm surprised if I don't shoot straight, and I say, again, this is over the years of development and understanding the art of shooting and teaching it to literally tens of thousands of players across the world. Something that's pretty cool that I want to also pull up if I can. And if you can search it while I'm talking about this, look up Attack Basketball Scotland. Look up Attack Basketball Scotland. I've had the opportunity, people, to go to Scotland twice. Actually, it's Aberdeen, Scotland, and actually coach. And the people over there had an organization. They were so appreciative of what I was teaching and coaching. We're watching film, breaking down everything I'm talking about right here, from shooting to mentality to emotional intelligence. They said, man, you know what? We actually want to take your philosophy, your methodology of coaching and teaching basketball. We want to use it. We want to create Attack Basketball Scotland. And I don't get any royalties on that. More so, I was just flattered. And I'm like, man, that's what this is about. Again, I want to become a world resource in basketball. When you think about basketball development for your kids, I want you to think about Charlie Miller. And, that opportunity came about. And it's pretty neat to understand that there actually is an Attack Basketball Scotland.
So I was actually searching this on YouTube. Is it the website you were talking about?
Yeah,
I didn't see it on YouTube.
Just go to Google. Just go Google Attack
Okay,
Basketball.
I got you.
Yeah. I didn't want to get off and do that on my own. I just want you to look at it. So, but yeah, man. So it's like, it's these are things I call the unseen hours. A lot of the stuff I've been doing over the last 11 years, people may not know, right? Because I don't really advertise it. That's what I'm getting better at, advertising. But I just wanted to make sure I had the right pieces in place. So when I do it, it's more about the action and execution style of it than saying, hey, here's what I'm looking to do.
I think I found what it is. Were you wanting me to pull it up and show?
Please, by all means.
I could be very wrong on what this is, but this is what I think.
Wrong, we're wrong.
And if I'm wrong, we'll pick up the pieces. This it?
You're not wrong. That's it. You're not wrong. If you go to, I haven't been on their website, but if you go to go to the About page.
Okay.
And go, and again, I haven't been on their website. Go to Mission and Vision. Let's see what that says. But that's basic. That's it.
Coming soon, but hey.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, man. Attack Basketball Scotland. Literally. I mean, so you went to it. I remember when her name is Ruth Grant. Yeah, we're thinking about the lion, what the lion represents. Hey, that's great. I mean, hey, and use me as a resource. And we were sharing. I'm sharing all of my back end information with them. Where this film study, whether it was, attention to detail over the last, again, this has been 4 or 5 years, and that's now starting to develop. So it's pretty cool to understand and know, and again, coming back again, being a former IU basketball player, a lot of times you look at the Mike Woodsons, the Randy Whitmans, they go on to coach in the NBA, and here I am, I'm looking to do my best at a rendition of that, but looking to help players throughout the world, man. But to me, it's just a metaphor for life. Like how you learn on the court, you could do the same thing off the court as well.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks again, Charlie, for sharing us your update on what's going on with your Attack Basketball Academy. We're excited to see what that becomes into, whether it's your YouTube presence or just your program in general.
Yeah.
We're going to have all that information up on the Hoosier.com. I know we say that every time, but
yeah,
we'll get a special section for it, and we'll make sure people around Indiana get the word out. And you say, I think you mentioned on the phone, you have, I know this is months away, but before we go to break, you have a camp or something coming up in June or July in Noblesville.
Yeah, actually, I want to go here so people can see this.
All right, let me pull it up.
So
there you go.
Yeah, so I want to, and this is definitely a link, John. We want to get up on the site.
Absolutely.
This is where I'm able to travel throughout the world. In a sense, the company's called Breakthrough Basketball. They're a top internet resource when it comes to basketball for coaches, players, and parents. And I've been with them for 6+ years. Here's my bio, and then here's my camp schedule that actually is coming up this 2022, starting in March. What I'm doing here in Dallas, but then here's the most important part, people. I'm coming home June 14th through the 16th. I'll be in Noblesville, Indiana, teaching a camp on footwork and mentality called Attack and Counter. If you click on either which link, it'll take you exactly to the website, the marketing page, and you can see what players will get out of the camp, right? Footwork, mentality, post moves, finishing inside, ball handling, fast break skills. And it's 3 days, 18 hours, 6 hours each day. A lot of teaching, a lot of action, man, a lot of reps, right? The format of the camp, you see everything here. Again, who you're going to learn from. So my goal is to get this camp sold out. We'll have about 60 players. Typically, it's a sellout. Depending on support and help, John, we can sometimes go up to 65 to 70. But I want to sell that camp out. Right. So the quicker we can get this information up there, man, and I think they're starting to take registrations as well, better. So people can get a firsthand look at Coach Charlie, not Charlie Miller, the basketball player, but at Coach Charlie back in Indiana.
Perfect. Well, we'll definitely get that up for you. We're going to go ahead and take our next break. Jim Coyle will be back with us when we come back. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda. We're back after this.
Perfect.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Sports on television.
Hey, Jim, you're muted.
Hello,
If you're-
ladies.
Oh, there we
Hello,
go.
ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
Can you hear
guys.
me?
Look at that.
Does it sound all right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you sound fine.
Does it look all right? Well, I know it's heading upwards.
You just
Yes,
got
fine.
the light behind you, like you're beaming.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like you're a halo. You're an angel or whatever.
yeah. Do I need? Well, I am. I was listening to all that. Charlie, you should have got a piece of that, man.
What's that?
Scotland, attack Scotland.
Oh, well, the piece is coming. It's coming in more ways.
International attack, baby. I won't be the spokesman.
Yeah, man.
By the way,
Okay.
Jim, just to update you on where I know I texted you, but we have Chris Denari, not this segment, but the following segment, and then after that's Matt Taylor.
Yeah. Hate to,
And we're gonna, even though we started late, but even because we don't have to send the audio to Evansville, we're just gonna go till 10:30 anyway because I had a production issue and I'm gonna have to use some extra time doing that at the end of the show. So we're gonna be a little short today, but it's fine.
So you started late, you say?
No, we were here, we were on time, but Charlie was having
okay.
technical difficulties.
Oh, okay, I was just giving you crap, man.
No, you're good. I ate late. You know I ain't late. I was up and at him by 8:00.
I didn't go to bed.
Are you going to share over the air where you're at?
Not yet. Not today. I'll tell
Okay.
Charlie.
Okay. Well, not right now, obviously, because they can still hear us. But
And I made this decision at 2:00 yesterday afternoon.
Wow.
I know I
And
called
by-
Charlie last night. I was like, well, Jim's going to be gone somewhere, but I'm not sure where he's going or why. But
They canceled the game, and I'm like, you know what? That game was the only thing in the middle of everything that would have allowed a nice break. And then the game gets canceled, and I'm like, God dang it. You know, I could have done something, gone away for a minute. And when that game got canceled, I'm like, you know what? They don't play at home again until the 6th. I got to get out of here, man. I got to
That's good.
just go rest. And so I said, I'm going someplace. I grabbed a couple of books. I got a whole bunch of cigars in here with me.
Nice.
I'm going to smoke cigars and read
we're coming back.
and shove that phone in the sand.
I love it.
down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back. I guess it's my turn now. Thanks a lot, John, for taking charge this morning. Jim Coyle back with you. Charlie Miller. I was listening in to most of that, Charlie, and I told him off there. I was like, man, he should be getting a cut of that Scotland attack ball. And start that up for the international, baby. I'm ready to go international.
That's right, man. No, I appreciate that. And hey, look, you're right. I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I think what's most important to me, man, is really starting to spread the word. You know, and that to me, I mean, that's the flattering part to it. And I know it's a business, but the flattering part to it is being used as a rural resource like that, man, and just really put on my mind, man, you're not local, dude, you're global. You got global talent, and you have an opportunity to outreach to a lot of people, and they appreciate what you say and what you bring. So that's just a vision, man, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, and it's funny, the people that will follow wherever, it doesn't matter, probably there are certain schools. Indiana is one of those few schools. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you go.
Yeah.
You're going to have fans.
Yeah.
We're fortunate to have listeners to our show, and I don't even know, it's probably like 14 countries.
That's right.
Where people they get around the world, man. They travel.
And Yeah, and that's exactly it, and that's exactly the point of the platform. I think I shared with you, if I haven't, there was actually a parent that reached out to me on Instagram. His son is a current player at Illinois University, right?
Wow.
He's literally, and I'll send the text to you via email. I'll show it. And he actually was like, man, hey, awesome teaching points, man. I want my son to hear you. But he's playing right now at Illinois, so he has to listen after the season. So I'm like, we're family, Big T. He can listen now, but yeah, man. I mean, so think about that, right? So happen to hear us talk about basketball, whatever it is, and I appreciate. I mean, that's just like, wow, man. That's amazing to know people are listening, paying attention. So hats off to you and the show and opportunity.
Oh, hey, man, it's people like you though that make it happen. We're just here to be a platform, but it's exciting to Jordan Halls and all guys like that. All you guys, Kirk Haston. It's just the opportunity to help do that and be a part of that is amazing. I promise you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Obviously, I didn't hear the early part. Did anybody get to watch any football last night?
I didn't. So we just talked. We kind of talked. The cancellation of games. My thoughts on that. And
any new? Have I missed anything new has been canceled?
I'm not sure. Obviously I knew the girls' game was canceled, and then the boys' game was canceled yesterday. And we just talked about the potential of what were they doing. I believe at this time they're probably scrimmaging, getting players opportunities that typically don't play. Right, you get players that are probably getting sparing minutes, so you get a chance to probably have an in-season scrimmage, right? So potential things that they're probably doing to stay fresh and ready. Probably also getting a lot of rest and recovery as well, getting players back healthy.
I saw something yesterday that when they get to play again, though, January 2nd against Penn State, it will be 11 days between games. What's that like when it's not a planned 11 days without a game?
Well, that's what I said. I think, as a semi-pro athlete, because to me in college, that's what you are. I mean, you're going to school. I say this in love, man. You're going to school to play ball. You're at that school on scholarship to play ball. And for me, with 11 days, you just got to be player ready. It's all about your approach, all about mentality. So at the same time, you got to stay fresh. You got to make sure you're not only doing your individual work, but you're watching film, right? You're working out. You're keeping your stamina up, because there's nothing like a game and game speed. It's different. Game speed's different. Now, if it still remains the same, you play in 4-minute increments. And what I mean by that, people, is the first tip off is at 20 minutes, about 16 minutes is first time TV timeout. So we used to scrimmage in that manner, Jim. We would scrimmage for a whole 4 minutes to get used to that game atmosphere, running up and down the court, transition break, fast break. So you want to make sure during those 11 days you stay game ready, because if you take off too much time, you get casual, you will get your butt kicked holistically in that first game, because you're winded. Now you can't think straight. Now this is all off.
Yeah, especially a team like Indiana, we'll take, for example, that's still trying to come together.
Right. We're still right.
They're not there yet. And so they're still searching for that magic secret sauce that blends it all together. I don't know. Does 11 days off help with that or hurt with that? Because you get to practice more, but obviously you're not challenged.
Well, you're not. Well, in a sense, you're not challenged because you're playing against each other, and you hope that mentally you can really push each other as hard as you can, right? You hope someone can challenge Trace to make his efforts tougher in practice, because you're going to swallow that whistle a little bit. You're not going to call as many fouls, but you also want to stay safe at the same time, right? So there's like a thin line. I'm hoping that they probably, if not yesterday, they probably had some type of simulation play, some type of scrimmaging that they probably went through. And at the same time, with the scrimmaging, because it's in-house, you get a lot of stoppage. So you get a lot of timeouts to really teach, to correct in the moment. So I'm hoping that we take advantage of that over the next few days and to also get everybody back healthy so they can play against Penn State and like they never missed a beat.
Yep, that's what we've seen so many breaks. And now in college football, I really wonder. There's been so many cancellations. I can't fathom why we're having so much more difficulties now, other than we've had this talk a lot. The protocols are a problem. They need to change. They're going to have to get into that because I don't think you'll make it through a season.
Right.
Otherwise.
Right. Well, exactly right. I mean, again, and I know testing is not like it was last year. It's not the same. And I can only imagine. I mean, I think it was I was in Memphis last week, and there was a team I think scheduled to play against Memphis or someone in that area, and the game got canceled hours before the game was supposed to be played. So just imagine the plane ride. You're getting ready to play, going to the arena, and the game gets canceled. So I was telling John, man, I can only imagine the psychological effect to these players of what's really going to their psyche, man. And I don't know if we think about this much and what it now, you know, you're traveling, you got all the stuff on your mind. Are we going to play? Are we contagious? It's just so many unknowns, man. But now it's like the number one game is adaptability, Jim. Got to adapt and adjust, man.
Yep, always, as I'm trying to do right now as I move across.
And it's all good. It's good.
Yeah, adapt and change is what you have to do throughout the season as these teams continue to adapt as the season comes upon them, because they haven't really been tested yet. The Big Ten play will start. I don't know that Penn State's going to be a great test. Ohio State, that's going to be a test.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And that's the part to me, again, I know players and coaches, at least this year, coaches didn't probably have much say. But it's kind of like, it's just, I'm not used to it. When you play a conference game and all of a sudden you play several other non-conference games where, wherever you play, night in, night out in the Big Ten is going to be a challenge just because it's the Big Ten. So, like you say, they haven't been challenged. It's like they've been challenged, but now you play some games that you're probably going to win, and you're going to win by big margins. Where are you going to let off the gas? Are we going to see that same energy against better teams, talent-wise, team-wise? And to me, that's kind of the unknown with the way scheduling is. I think now overall, you play a conference game, and all of a sudden you have 3 non-conference games in between. You go back to playing conference. That's just a little different for me. And again, who am I? But that kind of throws you off on who are we as a team? Who are we as a unit? Who are we as fans watching? I think Jim went away.
It looks like Jim, who knows? He'll like I said, we're going to pick up the pieces and we're going to figure it out as
Jim is in relaxation mode.
Yeah, who knows where our good friend Jim
is. It's almost like this is a day off for Jim, man.
Jim's day off. He says he's told me he hasn't taken off a day in like 4 years or something like that. So.
And like I said, I felt like I told you last night, man. He feels he's very confident that you and I can just run with it. So here we go.
There he goes.
And I heard everything. I was trying to find a better spot, and so I'm in an airport, so I couldn't leave my bags. So I had to gather everything, and in the process of that, well, there's my Starbucks that I just bought. Over there, and so then it was all over me, all over my phone, and so I'm like, this is not going to work very well.
Oh, good, man.
So trying to do too many things at once, but
it happens.
Getting it done. What was Christmas like for the Millers?
Man, Christmas for the Millers. My son plays basketball. I think I told you all. He plays at Midway University. It's an NAIA school in Midway, Kentucky, not too far from Louisville and Lexington. Went to go watch him play. I think it was the Saturday week before Christmas. pretty neat to go watch him play. It was an emotional moment for me, man, just to watch my son play. He didn't play much in the first half, which, he's accepted. He has to get better. He knows that offensively. He's better defensively than offensively, if I can steal the line from Coach Woodson. He literally is. But he's getting better. He's improving. And he's accepted that role. The great thing about it, with that COVID year we all get, I guess now, if he wants to play in another 4 years, he can. So he has time to develop. He understands that. He's a process, right? At the same time, uniquely speaking, when he does play, they played against a team out of Terre Haute, Indiana. I think it was called St. Mary of the Woods or something of that nature. I want to disrespect their name. But he plays because they're up by 25, Jim and John. He scores 6 points and fouls out. He plays less than probably 9 minutes. 6 points, 5 fouls. He had a double single, I call it. And I'm sitting there like, you got to be I had some other choice words, and I was close to the bench. I was like, man, those fouls are not needed. But I want to be more of a fan and support. I'm like, hey, man, you're up by 20. What are you challenging somebody on the layup for? Let them shoot the layup and go down on offense and now have you on offense, right? But just watching the game and then spending time with them, end up going to Nashville, Tennessee for a while, man. Spent time at the Gaylord Opry. Just kind of did leave the hotel, spending time with my family. Just kind of celebrating the year, training, basketball, development, helping people like we always do, and just kind of taking time off like you are doing right now, Jim. And then we went down to Memphis, and I became an Elvis fan, man. I'm an Elvis Presley fan now, man. I'm watching. I went to Graceland, walked the grounds of his house, and got a chance to see a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memorabilia, to understand his story. But then all of a sudden, this dude went on like a 31-0 streak on making movies. Just unbelievable. And I happened to just watch one of his movies. It was called G.I. Blues, the first movie I watched. And then I'm like watching all of his movies, man. And they're kind of slapstick, funny. They're like very pun, the way they talked about doing certain things.
Elvis wasn't going to win any Oscars.
Very pun, but man, this guy was talented.
He was.
Oh my greatness, man. He was talented. But then for me, the downfall, the drugs, and the way he passed away was very interesting. But then to me, it's like, okay, man, when you're that talented, do you love yourself enough? What was it, right? And not to get much in that, but just I become a fan, man. Just again, his music, understanding his story, the humanitarian side of him, all the things he did again in the unseen hours for people in the community of Memphis. Man, it's just pretty neat to understand that legacy continue to move on.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., big Elvis fan, has always had a room in his house. He talks about it.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
Oh man, all his cars. All the toys, the snowmobile he had created, because it doesn't really snow in Memphis much until they custom built. You see all of his the pink Cadillac he got from his mom. Graceland was named. I think it was it was the person who owned the property. Her name was Grace. It was a doctor. He bought it from a doctor, so he named it after the person who originally had the property. That wasn't anybody in his family. He called it Graceland because I think the lady who was older, her name was Grace. So just to understand those kind of stories, right?
And it's kind of cool though, because nowhere else. Well, some places, mainly country music, but you don't see like the homes of someone like that, especially if it's not in Nashville or Los Angeles or New York, being made out to be, what this is. And it's a museum. And it is exactly that, a museum. So
it's a museum, and they also built the second side of it, right, where you have this whole exhibit of all of, again, like his garage and trophies and plaques. And the thing I also appreciate about Elvis, and again, I want to learn from that, is this guy was so multifaceted that you can't categorize him. You can't put him in a box because he had his own style. He got his style from gospel music, but then it was his in blues. It was his way in rock and roll. So you can't really put him in a box because I think he's the only person that won Grammys in gospel, country, blues, R&B, rock and roll. Like the whole plethora of awards he won, because you can't categorize the style.
Let's take a quick break. Chris Denari's going to join us next. I'm sure he's a big Elvis fan. He seems like a big Elvis fan. Maybe he can sing us a tune. Oh man, we're back with Chris Denari on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants. If you're in the market for
Morning, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing well. Jim,
I'm
trying to figure out something. Jim's at the airport.
Where's Jim?
At some airport. He won't tell us where, though.
I'm at an undisclosed airport. And I just spilled my daggum Starbucks all over the place. Step on a cigar. Where did that cigar go? I'm missing one. Damn it. How the hell you lose a cigar?
Wow.
Tell me it didn't roll off that
Charlie, this is I don't know if you all have met before, but this is Chris Denari, play-by-play voice for the Pacers.
Yeah,
hey, Charlie. How are you?
Doing well.
I remember you with the Hoosiers.
I appreciate
you know he played for Indiana, I'm sure. But.
Oh yeah. Let's see. What years, Charlie?
It was 1994 to 1998.
Yeah, I was the radio voice of Butler from '89 to 06.
There we go.
Before I got the Pacers job.
Perfect.
I don't know how that happens, but it did. Kiss my butt? I don't know.
You all right, Jim?
Jim's in the stairwell, man. It's like Jim's like recording a movie or something over there.
I lost
like
a cigar
footage
somehow.
film or something.
Exactly.
I lost a cigar somehow. Damn it! I lost a cigar.
Do you need us to remove you for a second and get started here?
Get another coffee, man. Go refresh.
Oh, there it is. It's under my hat. I'm trying to go back inside.
Okay. We got 50 seconds, so we're back.
All right.
They say Jim's in the transfer portal. Start working for Purdue coming up.
Yeah, Jim's in the transfer portal, yeah.
I'd be one of many.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, too. All right, I'm bringing us back in.
Need Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indiehomepros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Hey, welcome back on this New Year's Eve, I guess. Charlie Miller with us as always. Chris Denari in How are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. I had a chance to talk to Quinn the other night.
Okay, good. Yeah.
He stopped by Mike's coach's show, which I'm surprised more people don't come out to that show. Not that people don't, but more don't, because you never know who's going to show up to that thing. But yeah, Quinn was there. Talked to him for a minute. Told him I'd love to have him on the show. So I'm going to have you work on that. I need to get him on with you. That would probably be the only way he'd be comfortable enough to come on here. How's everything else going?
It's good. The tough loss last night, lost to Charlotte. I'll tell you what, LaMelo Ball. I mean, if anybody questioned what kind of impact he'd have on the NBA, this kid is uber talented. I think he's the better of the balls, and Lonzo's playing pretty well this year. Pacers are just in one of those stretches. They've got some injuries. They had lost Jeremy Lamb to the COVID protocols last night. I didn't think played too badly, but their margin of error is not very big. And so when your margin of error is not very big, you have to do a lot of things really well. And defensively, they weren't good enough last night. But, other than that, I'm good. From a personal standpoint, as Jim and I, we've been talking. I'm a grandpa now. I've got a 3-week-old grandson. So all of those things are good and getting ready for the new year. Just a lot of games going. But, hey, when you like basketball like I do, that's perfectly fine.
That's right.
That had to be exciting to get the grandson at Christmas.
Oh, it was. He was born December the 12th, our middle son and his wife. And so it's been good in a 3-week period just to see him grow. I mean, he's much different than he was, 2 weeks ago. So that's been a lot of fun. And the good news is they live about 10 minutes away. So we have plenty of opportunities to see him.
Nice.
Charlie was just up in our part of the country, at least. His son plays down at Midway, Kentucky, for Midway College down there, and he was just up here. Went on a little tour, and you could probably hear us in the waiting to come on. He was become a big Elvis fan now. He stopped by Graceland. He's a big Elvis fan.
Yeah, man. I was a little reluctant to go, to be honest with you, but my wife, when we're going on vacation, we got a schedule from, I'm thinking I just want to lay around. It's a schedule from 8:00 in the morning to at night. I'm like, oh, come on, that's like work, right? So, no, we went to Graceland, man. It was pretty intriguing to me, and I started watching these movies. I was telling Jim, I watched GI Blues, some other movies. They're slapstick, but they're funny at the same time. They all kind of have the same kind of plot when it thickens. Him and his affection for women. So his music. But I was telling Jim, to me, I didn't realize how talented.
Yeah.
He was. You can't put him in a box. I mean,
I want to know, though, where did he go from being the normal guy? Because he used to, back in the day, they were caravanning with people like Johnny Cash and those guys. Now, he was not well received at the Grand Ole Opry. He appeared there once, and they did not like him. Funny. But I want to know, where did he go? When was the switch over to where all the suits started coming on, man, and the big high collars and the taking the neck things off and giving them to the women? When did that all start?
I don't know. I mean, we have a rotation of Christmas music, I mean, the great thing about today, remember the old days when you had to put in a cassette or something like that. And you had to tape all your, now I have a Sonos system throughout the house, but I have current Christmas stuff and a lot of Elvis. And, my wife said, I was like, I don't know. She goes, oh, Elvis, that's some classic Christmas music. I don't know.
Blue Christmas without you.
I mean, I don't know when all that happened, but you make a good point that, and Charlie said it. I mean, you think of the blues, rock and roll. Is that why the Grand Ole Opry, did people not see him as country?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He was not doing the thing that everybody else was doing. He was different. He was a different cat.
Yeah, he wasn't doing what Oak Ridge was doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Elvira. Watch my song back in the day.
But you know, the funny thing is, and I don't know how this ended up being a discussion on the origins of country music, but it is now. Country music came from the blues and religious music, like you mentioned, Charlie. But there were specific people,
Right.
Hank Williams. I forget there was one specific African American old blues singer that taught him all kinds of stuff, and he would talk about that's where he learned from.
Right.
The same with Johnny Cash.
Right.
He had the same deal. So that's where it came from originally.
Well, I'm probably not the old school country music fan. I really became a country music fan because I asked Charlie off air when he played, and I had to remember it. He said 94 to 98.
Yes, sir.
And 94 is a big number for me because I was a Hootie and the Blowfish fan. I was a Darius Rucker fan.
There we go.
And so when Darius went country, I sort of followed. And so that really introduced me to more country music. Now I'm probably more of a newer country music fan than, back in the day, but I really crossed into that genre because of Darius Rucker. And Darius, if you listen to him and talk to him, I mean, he talks about listening to old school country when he was growing up. I mean, that's Charlie Pride, all those kinds of things.
Oh, man.
That's how he got involved. And so, for me, I was a tag along.
You mentioned Charlie Pride. Charlie Pride, I actually coached with his nephew.
Get out.
In Dallas. And Charlie recently passed away about a year ago with COVID complications. But yeah, and so I was gonna bring that up. So it's funny. Now I don't follow country music like that, but yeah, I'm just a historian when it comes to anything sports related. I mean, I don't know if that's an athlete in me, but like just the understanding of Elvis.
Okay, well, here's one for you. He was a very promising minor league baseball player.
Exactly.
Charlie Pride.
Knew that. Yes, exactly. Right. So there's a sports element to it as well.
Yeah.
And
so Conway Twitty.
Yeah, and then so I was in Memphis. I spent about a week in Memphis last week. I was in Memphis. And you're taking in everything from BB King to Al Green. You're taking it now. People I listened to for a long time when Al Green was a pastor. First, it was R&B. Then he became a pastor. But like just the oranges of it all, to me, the music scene in Memphis. So, but I really highlighted Elvis. So it's that's why Jim brought up Elvis to you, Chris.
Yeah.
And sports itself would. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No. I was going to say that what Charlie said. What's funny about country music, and currently, a lot of the country music young stars, if you will, are all former athletes. A lot of them played baseball. A lot of them were football players. I mean, and you're right. As Charlie said, the music industry, there's so much interest between musicians and athletes. I mean, that's what I think is pretty cool.
Well, and I know you probably see it a lot at the NBA level. I mean, everyone wants to be a rapper, but Lonzo Ball's a rapper. And, I mean, it's just I think it comes with the territory in a sense. But, yeah, so I think there's an interest. Oh, you feel like you're an athlete. Man, I can do that.
Right. Once you're a performer, you want to be a performer in many different genres.
There you go. That's exactly right.
Yep, you're drawn that way. Getting back to the Pacers, talking about, and Charlie, you probably maybe not have been able to follow what's going on with them. They had been already talking about rebuilding of sorts.
Yeah.
And now I wonder, with all the problems they're having, I asked Charlie first, as a team, when you already know that, when that's already out there and it's early yet, and now you've got these injuries coming, how in the world do you stay up, stay motivated, stay up for these games when you know you don't have the firepower, or that you don't even know who's on the chopping or the trade block? Lots of stuff going on. That's a lot of stuff to have in your head and still want to go out there and compete at the highest level.
Correct. So, Chris, I played 6 years professionally. A lot of it was over in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
At a couple years, I would say it was when Randy Whitman was the coach at Cleveland. I had a good look at playing for the Cavs. Then some interest. I played also in the CBA at the time. Now we know the G League. Yep. It was in Gary, Indiana.
Yep.
And the Bulls asked some good interest, but never was able brought up 10 days, whatever. But at the CBA level, you're always in rebuilding because I say this. I remember playing with Randy Livingston. You know that name? Okay. And I had a stretch, Chris, where I was averaging about 20, 25 a game because Randy was a show and go point guard. Charlie, run. I get it. Get out to the wing, go. All of a sudden, Randy gets called up. I go from 18 points to playing for a point guard. First point guard. Now your game is off. Yeah. So in the CBA, you're constantly rebuilding because you don't know the pieces you're getting. Now, me segueing into the NBA, I can only imagine when you know, we're not necessarily tanking, but we are rebuilding, and you hear these words, that does mess with you psychologically as a player because you know it's like, okay, well, I'm thinking about my contract. Is this a contract year for me? I'm thinking about my money, my body's my business now. So where does it place you in playing games? You're winning now, you're getting taken out because you don't want to win too many games. You know what I'm talking about. So I can only imagine the psyche of players at that level when you are talking about that. Then you get the Miles Turner. Hey, look, I want to, explore my options. Then now you got that in-house bickering between management, player. Sometimes to me, what I see, what I kind of also know, you're making a lot of money. You feel like you're above the world a little bit. So I can only imagine what they're going through mentally when you're talking about, rebuilding, rephasing. But I would love to hear your side of that. That's kind of my side.
Yeah, I think, there's always a lot of noise out there. And I think as a player, you have to figure out how to deal with that noise. I think the difficulty for the Pacers has been they feel like they have a group that could or should win. And they've lost so many close games. I mean, they're 14-21. And the way the NBA is right now, they're only like 3 games out of one of the final playoff spots. And of those 21 losses, 17 of them have been by like 8 points or less. It's those close games. And the one thing that they have really struggled with is 3-point shooting. Now, what was crazy is last night they had one of their best 3-point shooting nights of the year, but they didn't do enough defensively to shut down Charlotte. So, it'll be interesting. This group feels like they should be better. And I think we all feel like they should be better. I think you've got a good head coach in his first year. He's back, Rick Carlisle, trying to figure out how he can get this group to maximize its potential. But it will be interesting to see as this team goes forward. This has been a franchise that has always strived to be the best that they can be. In a market like Indianapolis, you cannot do what Philadelphia did a few years ago. This has been a prideful market, a prideful organization that, wants to be in the playoffs. And then you roll the dice and see what you can do. So, I still have a lot of faith in this group if they could get healthy. But we're now about at the halfway point of the season, and they've got to try to put a consistent stretch together. That's why I thought last night was disappointing because you're in a stretch. You've got Charlotte. Tomorrow you have the Bulls. Then you go to Cleveland. Then you go to New York. You've got Boston a couple of times. You have a lot of teams that, quite honestly, are similar to the Pacers. They're struggling, right? They're not living up to expectations, and you need to take advantage of those games. So we'll see, what lies in store for this team over the next week or so.
Makes sense.
Another thing that's been hitting the sports world, obviously, is COVID. It's bowl games, basketball games. The NBA has done a really good job. Obviously, the pro leagues do a very good job of that. But I know you can't predict anything, but going forward, it's going to be a difficult year yet, I think.
Yeah, the Pacers had not really been hard hit by it. There have been teams that have been, decimated at times. That's why the other day, when Greg Monroe came back, the former Georgetown center, who I don't even know how old he is now, but he hadn't played in the league forever. He was added to Minnesota. He became the 541st player on an NBA roster this year. Wow. That's the most ever in the history of the NBA, and we're not even to January 1. That's because the NBA loosened its rules. Is you could, if you lost a player, multiple players to COVID, you could go and sign players to 10-day contracts. Because the last thing the NBA wanted to do, they did not want to have to suspend the season, because we know what that would do economically. We saw what happened 2 years ago when the NBA had to shut down and go to a bubble situation. We know a lot more about COVID now. It's still out there. It still can be dangerous, but they've been able to at least work through that. And we'll just see what happens as it continues to fester. Like I said, the Pacers have had 2 players and a number of coaches that have had to sit out due to COVID. Rick Carlisle, the head coach, was on a 10-day quarantine. Lloyd Pierce is now out with an inconclusive test. So every franchise has had to deal with it. We've seen, IU lost the game last night against UNC Asheville because Asheville had it. So, the biggest thing is people stay healthy, and hopefully we can get through this on the other side.
Yeah,
absolutely. Are you traveling yet?
We are not traveling, and we will not travel until at least the All-Star break. And a lot of the NBA broadcasters that were traveling are now not traveling. They are, staying back home. And so, like I've told you, Jim, we have a great setup in the studio. The good thing is I can go to practice. I'm courtside for home games. They are trying to limit the number of people on a charter flight, but we're still able to do those road games. And for the most part, if people watch them, I think we do a really good job. They have no idea if we're there or not. And so,
absolutely, you do an outstanding job. It's Chris Denari. He's the best in the business, and we're lucky to have him. Thank you, sir. Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Great to spend time with you, Charlie.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, Chris. And Jim, I would love to get your information, man, because if I'm ever in town, if possible, I'd love to come to a game. And
absolutely,
I'd love to watch what you do, man. Eventually, I may have a career in broadcasting news, but I'd love to watch and learn from people like yourself, man. So,
hey, we'll do that. I'll have Jim give me your information. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
We'll be back. You bet, guys. Thank you very much. Hey, we got more coming up. The great Matt Taylor's going to join us next, the voice of the Colts, as they are on a ride, baby. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
You've never met Matt Taylor either, have you, Charlie?
No.
Matt, Charlie Miller, Matt Taylor.
How you doing, Matt?
Well, I guess
you with us, Matt? Maybe he's having mic issues.
Well, he may just be waiting since he was in the green room.
Well, I just pulled him. That's true. He may have gone and done something. If you can, Jim, try to still be out close to 10:30. I know we're not going regular time today, but I do need to be out, obviously, for my own personal reasons.
I will make it happen, Captain.
Are you you're doing the show regularly tomorrow? I mean, I know you're not home, but
yes.
Okay. And Matt just dropped out. He may come back, but he may have a connection issue.
Got a connection issue. Man, people ain't scared of flying. My plane was full.
What airline were you on?
Spirit.
Hey, Jim, your mask is on upside down. If John,
I noticed that too.
John didn't care.
John didn't say anything. But John didn't say anything.
I care.
Well, I noticed it right.
I appreciate you, Charlie.
I'm gonna tell people, hey, look, I saw a lady one time. We was in the line, the grocery store. Zipper was down. I told her son, I said, man, go tell your mom to pull the zipper up, man. Your mom, dude.
Matt, are you with us now?
I'm here. You got me?
Yes,
yeah,
we got
baby.
you.
Hey, Matthew, meet Charlie Miller. Charlie Miller, Matt Taylor.
Matt, how you doing, sir?
Charlie, when did you graduate IU, sir?
1998.
So I think that you might have been my camp counselor. Were you with Luke Recker?
Luke. Well, he didn't finish there, right? So
Right.
Possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
when did you go to IU basketball camp? Was it around
I went to Bob Knight basketball camp like in 1997, 1998. So I think you might have been there.
I was there slinging pizzas, man. Slinging pizzas, and actually, man, got a cool story. We got to get him on. The person, his name is Aaron, and I was his camp counselor as well, man. And we were up late night prank calling people.
Oh my gosh!
All right, here we go. Coming back.
I hope he's in a prestigious position now.
Yeah. Awesome.
$4 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on New Year's Eve. And Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts, joins us now. Matthew, how are you, sir?
I'm good. What's going on, fellas?
Hey,
how
Matt.
was Christmas?
Christmas was great. It was a long day. I mean, we got up around 6:30 in the morning to do gifts with the kiddos, and then I didn't go to bed till about 3 a.m., I guess, the next day after the Colts game. So I'm running on fumes a little bit.
I bet. I was able to listen to the broadcast. That was one of the great things. Almost the entire broadcast. And what a game. And before I get to that too, though, who is your color guy?
Former Colts coach Rick Venturi.
Great guy. He is colorful as they get, but he is definitely not from the School of Broadcasting, is he?
No,
and I don't mean that in a negative or bad way. It's just funny because I say that because he steps all over Matt all the time, and I'm just laughing half the time.
Yeah, I think if it obviously it doesn't bother me. If it bothered me, then we would have a problem. But that's Rick, providing his analysis in his own way, and it makes for a good show, I think, because he doesn't have, he's not from the School of Broadcasting, and so therefore he's just all football, and he's there to talk football. That's all he wants to do, and I'm there to do both, talk football and get us in and out of the breaks and read sponsors and things like that. So it's good that he just focuses on one thing where I take care of all the other business stuff.
Oh, he's great. He can't wait, man. He's excited. He's almost like a kid at Christmas when they're playing well.
Well, and he's a coach. What he does is he watches. I mean, he prepares for these games as if he's still coaching, and he is. He's got 27 years of NFL background, so he can't turn that off. So he's still watching tape at 4 a.m. and breaking things down just as he would as if he's a coach. And so, when you're in a late game situation and you know what's coming as a coach, and then you see it as an analyst still unfold and you can't do anything about it, he goes into that old coaching mode where he just sort of just sinks in his chair and he's a fan too, so it just comes across the broadcast in a very passionate way. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
it's fun to listen to you guys. And speaking of that, the last two games, because we haven't been on for a couple of weeks, man. The last two games we missed talking about the win over the Patriots, getting that win over Bill Belichick, and then causing him to apologize to the media even. And then, of course, last week's win, gigantic. The Colts, not that anyone should have doubted them. They've been playing well. But, man, an 0-3 start, only the fifth team ever to make the playoffs if they do so. And I heard you talking about that 90% chance of making the playoffs now with that win last week.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you start 0-3, 1-4, and then at that point, you look at if you go back and look at all the analytics, in the probabilities of the Colts making the playoffs, it was at 5% after the first 3-4 games. Now it's at 97, 98%. And the fact that the Colts can clinch a playoff spot with the win coming up on Sunday over the Raiders is just remarkable. So, the Colts, they have one of the best just overall put together rosters in the NFL. And depth has been tested all season long, certainly at the beginning of the season. But here late now with this COVID thing running rampant, every team's dealing with it. But the Colts, I think more so than most teams, are able to navigate it because they do have just such a quality team put together, a lot of depth, and there's not a lot of drop-off between their ones and their twos. I mean, the other night, like you said, the Colts were down between COVID and injuries, the Colts were down at one point 4 starting offensive linemen in the game. And I think by the end of the game, they only had 1 left that they didn't use. So it just crazy amount of attrition. I mean, guys like Desmond Patman step up. He records his first career touchdown late in that game to put the Colts up by 2 scores. You got a player like E.J. Speed who comes in and plays linebacker for Darius Leonard, 9 tackles, absolutely no drop-off whatsoever. You're really thin in the back end at safety, and a guy like George Odom, who really doesn't play a lot. He's a special teams maven, but he's not known for playing on defense. He comes in and he plays like a Pro Bowler and gets a couple of passes defense there late in the game, on a possible chunk play from Kyler Murray. And then Isaiah Rodgers, same thing. I mean, so on and so forth. I mean, you could just go up and down the roster of guys stepping up in a big game like that on prime time against a team that was 10-4 at their place on Christmas night, and they go in and get the job done. That was one of the more gutsier performances I've seen a complete team win in a long, long time. And I think it's, to some degree, depending on how the rest of this week goes with the COVID situation for the Colts, I think they're going to have to use that same motto, next man up, coming up this weekend on Sunday against the Raiders. We'll see. Things are trending in the right direction. Guys are, a handful of guys are coming back day by day. We saw that yesterday. We saw that this morning with Zach Pascal, Kari Willis, Darius Leonard, all coming off the COVID list. So it's trending in the right direction, but still inevitably coming up on Sunday, the Colts are going to need all the nooks and crannies of that roster to step up.
Is there a chance still that Carson Wentz plays in that game?
There is. So it's been a wild week. I mean, following all the guys going on the list and then coming off the list, plus the NFL now is in line with the CDC guidelines, which takes the quarantine time down from 10 days to 5 days. So the NFL is now in line with, the government, so to speak. And so that really helps teams like the Colts. It helps the Raiders. It helps everybody, quite frankly. But there is still a chance that Carson Wentz can play. He was put on the list on Tuesday, which means that his 5 days would be up on Sunday morning. Now, logistically, what has to happen is the Colts have to take him off the COVID-19 reserve list by 4 o'clock on Saturday. That's sort of the procedural part of this. So if that happens, he's trending in the right direction, obviously, of playing on Sunday. But then Sunday morning, he has to be medically cleared by doctors and trainers. Now, I don't know who those people are. I don't know if that's Colts staff or a third-party NFL staff that does that. I don't have the answer to that. I'm my head spinning as far as all this stuff goes. But he has to be medically cleared on Sunday in order to play in the game, which means he has no fever and ideally be asymptomatic. But if he does have symptoms, they have to be mild enough that he can obviously sustain playing in the game. And somebody a lot smarter than me will make that determination. But yes, there is still a chance he plays in the game, and the Colts have said if he can play, he will start and he will play, even though he will not have had any reps in practice this week.
And that probably does a lot just mentally for the team. Another thing that I don't want to forget is the great segue, since the Colts are playing the Raiders. John Madden passing, especially someone who calls the game like you do. I mean, we all grew up with him, man, in one form or another, whether it was on the video game. For me, it was just watching the games, listening to him, as most people. But Charlie, I'm sure you too. I know you were always busy, but everybody, he's one of those guys that everybody knows who he is. It doesn't matter what sport you play.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of talk for a couple minutes on that, but for me, not necessarily saying being a football guy, but playing his video game, right? The video game that was named after him, but also watching old segments of him. Just how you talked about that former coach being passionate, just to hear his passion and watch him, and also being as big as a guy you can ever be. But be to me like a gentle giant. I know you could probably speak about it more, Matt, but that's kind of how I always saw Coach John Madden.
Yeah, I mean he is football legendary. I mean the Madden game, it was synonymous with my childhood growing up. I mean, we forget almost that he was a legendary coach before he was a broadcaster and had his name all over the video game. But I mean, what he did with the Raiders, 7 AFC title games, won the Super Bowl. I mean, the guy was, I think his record was like 103-32 in the regular season. I mean, that's better than Bill Belichick. I mean,
he's got the highest winning percentage in the history of NFL.
Right. So I mean, he's known for the commercials and the telestrator and this is John Bad, the thing, and the boom, and then all of a sudden, and round and all that. But I mean,
pretty good. Not bad.
If you're going to go out and play some football, you're probably going to have to go out and buy some cleats. So
not bad. Pretty good. Pretty good.
One of the great ambassadors for the NFL of all time. There's no doubt about that.
Matt, I know you got to get running, so I'll let you do that. But, man, thank you so much. And hopefully, number 3, man, 3 in a row, or more than that. But they're rolling, so hopefully you can get another win.
Yeah, they're going for number 4. First time they would have a 4-game winning streak since 2018. Hey, before I go, I got to give Charlie this, right? I got to give Charlie a little bit of a flashback.
I forgot all about that, man. Heck yeah.
Let's give Charlie a little bit of a flashback here, all right? So across the timeline, it's Charlie Miller. Miller right side, hands off to Rob Turner. Turner drives it baseline, kicks it over in the left corner to Michael Lewis. Top of the key to A.J. Guyton. Guyton now between the hash marks. Guyton now with 2 to shoot, hands it off to Charlie Miller for a deep 3. He got it. And Indiana has their 14th point of the ball game and their biggest lead at 5 at 14-9.
Nice.
I mean, it is so hard to do Don Fisher.
Nice.
There's hardly very, very few people that can do that, and that was a great one.
Matt's a pro, man. He's a pro.
And before I forget, we
got to play mad respect for Charlie Miller and his outside game back in the day.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's because I forgot we didn't talk about this on the air, did we? You went to Bob Knight's camp, and Charlie was one of your counselors.
I think that's right, Charlie. I think you were there, man.
Yeah, no, you said it, man. And actually, Matt, to be honest with you, I'm a basketball development coach, and I've been doing this for 11 years. And actually, so you guys know, Coach Knight and his way, we all had to work the camp because he wanted to teach us a lesson to coach.
Yeah.
So that was also his way because we were going to get paid $250, and that was a big deal.
Of course.
Hey, so you guys are going to work the camp. So you got free labor. I mean, in a sense, right?
Big time money, baby.
But that was really my introduction to coaching. And I really, Matt, to tell you, man, that was like, wow, man, I could probably do this for a living. Yeah. I mean, that was really the inception of me doing what I'm doing now for the last 12 years of my life.
So what you're saying was Matt Taylor was your inspiration.
Hey, it was people like Matt Taylor. I've told you also, Matt, you weren't in my dormitory. I think they stayed at Nut or somewhere.
Yeah,
I was a camp counselor, so I had to stay on campus. So when lights were out at 10:30, man, I had a couple players in my room, people ordering pizzas for different random houses. I mean, I was probably not a good influence, but I still have memories to this day before that. And I got a good friend of that. His name's Aaron Zink. I know Aaron watches a lot, man. So we kind of go back and forth on that. And as I was a player, I inspired him as a player as well. He lived right outside of Bloomington. But yeah, man. So going back to '97, man, those years of being a camp counselor inspired me to do what I'm doing now. But also, man, being a punkster that I am still today.
Well, I can tell you that the 10-year-old, 11-year-old self that was going to those camps as a kid that was trying to get better at basketball, but more so just wanting to be around Bloomington. And I mean, seeing you guys as camp counselors, current basketball players for IU, as a 10, 11-year-old that was so into IU basketball at the time, I mean, you guys were like gods. You guys were like heroes.
Yeah.
So I'm still like going back in time in my 11-year-old self right now, talking to you right now is incredibly cool. So I appreciate this.
No, I appreciate you for what you're doing and to hear that and to understand that, I was a part of that experience, but yet look at what you're doing now for life, man. Your voice that carries around the world, man, and you are bringing this to light.
Yeah.
And I can hear your passion, your excitement. So hats off to you and what you're doing, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. Continued success.
Yes, sir.
Charlie's got a big piece of probably the very floor that you played on.
Yeah.
In his home. He's got like this big, that thing is like 2 foot by 4 foot.
No, man, 2 foot. No, this sucker is huge. Actually, it was a funny story. I mean, Matt, unbelievable. A person I would play basketball with, just pick up basketball, local gym. His one of his workers, his dad bought a piece of the old floor from Assembly Hall, and it's been in storage. Mm-hmm. And I got a call one day and said, "Hey, do you want this?" It's like a 6x8, literally 6x8 piece of IU old basketball floor. You want it? I'm like, okay, how much he wants for it? He wants to give it to you. Man, this thing weighs a couple 100 pounds because they mounted it.
Sure.
Mounted, and it's just in my garage, like. But it's a piece of the floor I played on, so it's pretty cool, man, to know I was able to pick up.
Oh yeah,
piece of, pun intended to my shirt, a piece of wood that I used to play on, man. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Do I want to make a picnic table of it? Do I want to make a table of it? What do I want to do with it, right?
Well, that was the coolest part, because at the camp, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm remembering this right, is most of the camp happened at the Hyper.
That's right.
Where all the courts were. But then you got to play one game. You got to play one scrimmage games. One of the scrimmage games at Assembly Hall, which again, that's why I went to the camp. I went to the camp for that. I mean, I wanted to get better, but that was why you go to the camp.
You got it. Yeah, everybody was, because again, the capacity was there, right? You had the multiple courts. And then, so Matt, I'm not sure if you know this. I think I talked to Jim about this, but we never, when we practiced, they didn't have obviously that additional practice facility they have today. We practiced at the university school. We call it the U school. When Assembly Hall was not available. So we were kind of off campus in a sense. But yeah, I can only imagine that's a big highlight. Play in Assembly Hall, on that big eye in the middle of the court and look at in that bowl shape, right? I get it, man.
Yeah, it was. I still think about those 3 or 4 days in June as an 11 or 12-year-old kid. I mean, just watching you guys demonstrate the drills and run up and down when you guys would scrimmage against one another. It was like watching a bunch of Adonises play. It was great.
I take it. I take it, man.
Well, Matt, I cannot thank you enough for your time as always, man. It is always fun. I wish you a happy New Year, you and the family, and a best of luck, a great call this weekend, and we'll see what the Colts can get done.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Jim. Good to meet you, Charlie, and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year to you, sir.
Matt Taylor joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, the voice of the Colts. Make sure you pick him up this week as they take on the Raiders. Charlie, man, it's been a fun day. Thank you so much for picking up on the front end. I really appreciate it. It's always great to see you, man. I can't wait. I heard the good news that you're coming, that you have a camp scheduled in Noblesville in June. So I heard all that. We'll make sure that they get all that up on thehoosier.com and all that information. And man, I'm Happy New Year. I'm sure you have any plans. You're just kind of keeping it mild.
Yeah, well, I think just keeping it mild. Kind of staying low, staying home, especially with all this going on. My wife may want to get out and about to a friend's house or two. I want to stay home. I just want to come here because we just kind of recovering a little bit too. So because as soon as I came back from Memphis, it was back on the court for like 3 days, 3-hour camps with little kids, so they can kind of run you a little bit.
All right, man. Well, you go get those. Don't be cruel. Now, don't be cruel. Have a good weekend. Don't be cruel. But Happy New Year. Thank you so much. And just tell your wife Happy New Year and have a great weekend, brother.
Awesome. Happy New Year to you guys too, man. Thank you.
Everybody else as well. Thank you all so much. Without you guys, we don't have a reason to be here. Thanks to John for picking up the ball at the front of the show as well. And Matt Taylor, Chris Denari. Thanks to you guys. Were we back tomorrow, John?
Yes, sir.
Back tomorrow. Yeah, one more tomorrow. So back tomorrow for the big New Year's Eve show. But you guys go out and have yourselves a great day. It's a third, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.